is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And today, we were worried that we weren't going to have a ton to talk about, so we put out a request for some questions from you guys for a bit of a mailbag episode. And then bang, at midnight Eastern time, you get probably the craziest trade in the history of sports. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. I've been trying to think of anything that comes close, and I've seen people mention Gretzky, but that's about it. So we'll talk about that, and we will still answer some of your questions from Twitter. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon?
I'm all right. I feel like there's been some bumping around or whatever, but I drove down to Alabama here. I'm getting to New Orleans tomorrow, and I got pulled over by a cop and I got detained.
What?
I'm dead serious. I'm not playing at all. I got detained.
You were in the
by
back
a cop.
of the car?
No, I was. Here's the thing. I didn't quite get put in the back of a car, but he's like, "I'm detaining you." Here's what happened.
How fast were you going?
I got pulled over for a traffic violation. Apparently, I crossed over multiple lanes when merging off of an exit. Be real with you, I don't think that I did this, but maybe I did and I just didn't realize it. I'm somewhere I don't recognize. I can take my L, absolutely. But that's not what I got detained for. The cop walks up to the car and immediately he's like putting a flashlight in the back of the car. Keep in mind, it's like day out. There's no need to be doing this crap. He's asking me to roll down all the windows. I'm like, fine, whatever, I'm just like, let's just wrap this up. Gives me a warning for the traffic incident, but it like brings me back to his car and it's like, oh, I just got to run your paperwork. Why did you come back here with me? I'm like, all right, fine. Starts asking me a bunch of questions and like having like a pseudo conversation, but it's like clear what he's getting at. Oh, where are you headed? Oh, why'd you decide to get off at this exit? Oh, that's a nice car. You got like that type of shit. I'm like, really? All right, whatever. Eventually he's like, do you have any drugs in the car?
Yeah.
And he goes one by one and names them all off or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think you're lying. I think you have drugs in your car. I'm not kidding. He's like, I think you're lying. Because, of course, I have this big blue suitcase in the back of the car, and he just has his eyes set on going through my suitcase.
That's crazy.
And he's like, here's the deal. If I can't search your car, I'm going to have to detain you until we can get canines here. And I keep in mind, like, I wasn't doing anything other than a traffic violation. And all this guy saw in my car was just a suitcase, and that's it. Clearly from the get-go, he was trying to make something happen. And I'm like, all right, well, he says this saying, it's going to take a while for the canines to get here. I'm like, cool, we can wait. I'm like, great, you're not searching my car. Sorry, you're going to have to go through the process. And he's banking on like me being in a rush because I'm from out of state. And, he had already questioned me about everywhere I was going and what I was doing, whatever. And after about 5 minutes of him waiting and getting madder and madder, and he's like, how much weed do you have in the car? Just be honest with me, man. It was just like, none, dude. Sorry.
How much weed do you have?
Yeah, eventually he's like, fine, whatever. This is your lucky day. And I just pull off at the exit. And that was it. So that I'm the one with the weird work story, or not the work story, the travel story. Not you, Theo.
That's a crazy one. I mean, police have quotas and they like have to pull over and like arrest a certain amount of people per month. One of the many things wrong with American policing that's completely out of line and unnecessary. Good job on you for not letting him search the car. Seriously.
Yes.
Right. It's ridiculous. And it's like, who even cares if I did have weed on me to begin with? But I wasn't gonna let him do it without making him wait at least. So I'm glad it ended up working out.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not arrested. I'm glad you're not recording from jail right now. I also have I don't have a travel story. I'm just in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But I didn't get pulled over or detained. And No cops were assholes to me. In fact, everybody's been very pleasant here in Santa Fe. It's a great city.
That's good.
But that's crazy. I mean, I can believe that because it's cops, and a cop on a power trip does not necessarily shock
They're just
me.
bored. They're bored, you know.
They're
what
bored.
Can you do?
Yeah. They're bored and they got an arrest quota that they got to meet.
But it's crazy that it happened to you.
You know,
It could have been anyone, but it was you.
It could have been. Well, I mean, it was whoever that cop pulled over next. I mean, it was clear from the get-go he was decided that he was going to search my car, try to.
Yeah.
Try to.
But I won. Yeah.
You did win. You did win. Who won the LUKA trade?
I'm going to go with the Lakers on that one. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think it is the craziest trade that I can remember, at least NBA-wise, in the sense that, like, Luka didn't ask out. He's probably the best player to ever be traded without asking out. No, I mean he's right up there. I don't know what Kareem's situation was specifically, but it's just a combination of things here. It's like, between like. It's just a combination of things here between like the Lakers showing no signs that they were about to make a move like this and the Mavs showing no signs that they were going to do this. And the Mavs not only trading Luka, but them trading him for another older star who doesn't keep you in contention. So they aren't even really kickstarting a rebuild. That's what's strange about it to me. If they had traded Luka and said, we're done with this guy, but they had gone to OKC and they had gotten like Williams and a million picks, that would have been like, that sucks. Yep. That's still a disaster. But okay, now we get excited about the rebuild. Maybe we move Kyrie. It's like, okay, you see the path forward. Here, it's like, you know, I don't want to disrespect Anthony Davis too much, I guess. And I still think they'll be good. But, I mean, you've got Kyrie, who's injury prone and over 30. You've got Anthony Davis, who's injury prone and over 30. And you don't own any of your draft picks from 2027 first round, 2027 to 2030. That's 4 years of no first, or like you have the swap rights to San Antonio or whoever, right?
Yeah.
They've randomly become one of the teams that's in the worst positions in the entire. No, I don't want to go that far, but they've become in a very bad position when, you know, it felt like with Luka, it's like no matter what happens to him, at least they've got Luka, and that gives them such a high floor, and it's so easy to retool around them. I mean, you know, I think that some of their complaints with Luka, like the conditioning stuff, are valid, dude. He's really not in good shape, is he? No. And like it did hurt his defense, and we saw in the finals, like that stuff wasn't any good at all. But you have to work through that. You know, you have to figure that out. Any team would take figuring out Luka's conditioning over not having a Luka and then searching for that guy. So it's just total nonsense for me. I think it's interesting to think about what the Lakers are going to do going forward. Like, does LeBron stay there? Because Anthony Davis was his buddy. It kind of feels like he pretty easily could, because, I mean, he was already staying there when the Lakers weren't a contender, is now what I'm kind of thinking, even if AD was his buddy. But I'll be real with you. I really question how the Lakers are going to get good enough on defense quick enough. And I question if the Luka-LeBron pairing is like, it'd be good because it's Luka and LeBron, but is it some perfect fit that wins you a championship and beats OKC? I don't know.
Maybe so not. To me, it almost feels like some sort of preparation for a future without LeBron.
Well, that's the thing. It's all about the future without LeBron. It's like, well, if you get the chance to trade for Luka and you randomly get another one of the league's, you know, all-time great players, because Luka will go down as however great, you know, feels like at the minimum a top 25 player of all time, or somebody that level. I mean, that'll be the Lakers' probably 10th guy, but it's another dude to build around who's that great. The LeBron AD era wasn't going anywhere. There wasn't a move that they were going to make that was going to fix that. So I think it makes the most sense for most parties involved here for like LeBron to be like, let's go to Golden State. Probably still isn't that great, but at least they're sort of in win now mode and I can play with Steph or whatever. And the Lakers can get some compensation for LeBron and start building towards a timeline that's a little bit farther in the future, although it doesn't have to be that far because Luka's great right now. You just need to retool the roster so where you're better defensively. But I don't know. It was a wild one to wake up to at 5:30 a.m.
Everyone was saying we need the Spawn Hour TikTok, and you were fast asleep.
I was sound asleep. I was honk shoo 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 while
You
the meteor
were
was
in a
hitting
jail
Earth.
cell, looking sad, waiting for your portions, like your head between the bars, looking real thin. I can't wait for Spawn Hour's TikTok. And you're like,
The Spawn Hour in question.
Pickaxe, like
The Spawn Hour pickaxe.
breaking
Just doing
rocks.
manual labor.
I'm doing the Shawshank Redemption escape plan. I got a couple of years before I'm getting out. Yeah.
You broke out of prison. Yeah, I mean, I can't make any more sense of it than you, Matt. I just can't imagine why you wouldn't create a bidding war for Luka, and get way more. Anthony Davis is old. He is injured all the time. Like, why would you not trade him for a bunch of picks and a young player and try? Like, think about the Paul George trade and what that did for OKC.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't that the blueprint? It could easily be the blueprint. There's so many teams
and
that
you could get more. You could get more for Luka. It really is ridiculous that they didn't. So much of team building in the NBA obviously is just drafting well, right? But the other side of it is like picking the right direction. If you trade your superstar, do not try to keep competing if you're getting AD Kyrie is just not quite good enough, I don't think. I think it could be pretty good. We'll see where they land on defense. I don't know who their second creator, I guess their third creator is. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. But I got serious questions about that, man. And Kyrie's got a player option coming up, I think. He could be like, I'm cool.
Kyrie's gone. Kyrie is not staying in Dallas, Texas, bro. Like,
yeah, dude. Even if Kyrie and AD is like okay, like even if they're like kind of a playoff team, they're not going to be like there's no future.
They're not going to stick around. They're going to be gone. It's the NBA. They're going to be gone in 2 years or less, and you're just going to be left with nothing. It's like the GM was like, the Family Guy bit where like there's two boxes or there's like a boat or a box, and like Peter chooses the box because it could be anything. Here it seems like the GM took the boat, but like the box is in the shape of a, it's like the opposite of that bit where it's like you should take the unknown, man. Like it's in the shape of like the Taj Mahal or something. Like it's probably something pretty good in there. Like you got to take the unknown here, even if it's just draft picks.
And the thing with Luka, I forget who made this point, but I really agree. Is like if this current iteration, I think Carson said this in his video, but like you have so much time with Luka. And so much of winning a championship, it feels like, is being able to run it back over and over and over until you get like the injury breaks, right?
Yeah, look at the Celtics.
And look at the Celtics, for instance. Look at the Nuggets, for instance. With Luka, you have a guy who's going to allow you to compete seriously for championships for like 8 years. And you're going to be able to try not only multiple times with a single core, but multiple times with multiple cores to get it done. You can mess up. They messed up horribly with the first time. They lost Jalen Brunson for nothing, and they still were on the cusp of winning a finals, with AD and Kyrie,
100%.
Even if you really believe in those two guys, even if you're like, okay, I think that they're going to be way better than everybody expects, how many shots at it do you get? Feels like not nearly as many because they're two guys who are older and two guys who are injury prone.
Right.
There's just no angle from this for it to make sense for Dallas, and I really do feel bad for Mavs fans. Like, that sucks.
It totally sucks. I mean, the first reporting coming out is like, oh, we're concerned about his conditioning. Like, bro, that's so easy to fix. Like, you traded him in the middle of the night at the deadline because he was fat. Like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
The NBA does have trade juice like that in a way that just no other league can even come close to matching.
No.
They're saying he's
100%.
pushing 270.
Who cares? Ozempic. Get him on Ozempic. He's going to go to LA. He's going to be on Ozempic immediately, and he's going to run the league. I thought he was like 27, Luka. He's 25. He's still like a 25 and under player. He's been in like first team All-NBA 5 times. He's the only person under 30 who's done that, and he's 25. What?
And
that's crazy.
Yes.
And it's like when you think about Luka and not only just who he is and how good he's been and like his accomplishments, but just his like playoff resume too. I mean, how many times has Luka gone out there and been like above expectations and like has turned on that playoff mode? There's not that many guys like that in the NBA who can consistently do that. Luka is one of them. It's just shocking to give up an offensive player as good as he is for a package that just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Luka is the all-time, like, he's got gold on his Pro Basketball Reference page as like the highest usage rate in NBA playoff history. Like, he is legitimately carried the Mavericks farther than they're supposed to go, like almost every year. Like, they get to the Western Conference Finals when they're not supposed. They get to the finals when maybe they're not quite supposed to. Like, he has put the team on his back. Like, he's given the Lakers, like, sure, his defense is, if they get to the finals, like, his defense would get exposed or by the Thunder or the Celtics or whoever. But like, until they play one of those two teams, like, I'm probably taking the Lakers just because they have him. He's so crazy good. I mean, he's sent my sons home, just spanked them so many times. Like, it's clear how good he is. He just doesn't miss when he's in the zone. He's crazy good.
He's a demon.
I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it.
Now, for our NFL listeners, I think it would be appropriate for us to try and give a comparison for what this could look like in the NFL.
I think it's like it's like if the Ravens let Lamar walk when he tried to a few years ago. Like,
but it's like, it's not like that because, like, at least Lamar was on it would be like if there is no comparison because Lamar at least was on a contract here. I agree it would have been a disaster in the same way.
Yeah.
But like, Lamar's contract was up and you were having to franchise tag him. It would be like if the Bills traded Allen or something, or like the Ravens traded Lamar now, almost, where it's just like, there's just no reason to do it. And like, now you're not going to compete. But I don't even know who the quarterback equivalent of Anthony Davis would be in this, because it has to be somebody that, like, you know, is still good, but not so good where you're like, okay, well, it's still kind of over. But I don't want to name any names because if I compare him to Anthony Davis, it might be disrespectful.
Quarterback is the best at defense. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely, it feels like, yeah, it feels the most to me like that what if of like, what if some team out there makes the decision that quarterback contracts have gotten too expensive and they actually like make the decision to let him walk? Because that's the thing with the Mavericks. They're like, look, Luka hasn't been in shape in a long time, I guess. Like, we don't like his defensive impact. We just don't think he's going to be worth a super max contract. So we're going to let him walk. Like, it's kind of a crazy decision. It's kind of one that no one's ever had the guts to make. So it kind of feels like letting some quarterback walk, but then there's like, what quarterback as good as Luka would you even do that for? Like, obviously they're getting something in return. So it's not a perfect comparison. It's just what the gamble sort of feels like is yeah, they just don't believe in Luka long term. It's crazy.
It is. It's true.
This would be like if the Cowboys traded Dak for
like nothing, like because Dak is like as good as Luka.
Tackle. That's what it would like if they traded him for a defensive tackle.
It's just the problem is that no player in the NFL is as valuable as a player like Luka in the NBA. Except for maybe Mahomes and like maybe Allen, Lamar, or like kind of like those top quarterbacks are sort of there. But the difference is like, it's nearly impossible to win a title without a Luka. That's what makes this so crazy. The hard part of winning a title is like, most of the time you have to have either one of the best like 5 players in the NBA. And oftentimes you look back and say, oh, that was one of the best 20 players of all time. To get somebody who is unquestionably that level, and be like, yeah, we're gonna let him walk, or yeah, we're gonna trade him and just completely punt. It's something that you don't see teams ever do. We saw Toronto. It's like almost the opposite of it. How much did Toronto gamble on Kawhi just because they wanted to have a shot with a guy that level for 1 year? They pushed their chips in the middle to get a shot at a guy like that for 1 year. The Mavs had that dude and he could have been a 15-year team legend, and they let him walk. or they've traded him.
You cut out for a bit there, but I understood what you were trying to say. It's just unfathomable. It's just unfathomable, and
It is.
that's all there is to say.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're really a heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare ya. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's gotta be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's locations. All right, let's be honest. Figuring out what's for dinner every night gets old fast. After a long day, the last thing I want to do is spend time meal planning or running to the store. That's why I love HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered straight to your door. They make it easy to eat well, and with over 50 meals to choose from each week, I never get bored. Plus, their ready-made meals go from fridge to fork in just 3 minutes. Same high-quality ingredients, zero effort. Perfect for busy nights. I've been using HelloFresh, and it seriously saves me so much time. No more stressing about what to cook. No more wasted ingredients, and the meals actually taste amazing. So if you want to make dinner easier, get up to 10 free meals and a high-protein item free for life at HelloFresh.com/stayhot10FM. 1 item per box with an active subscription. Free meals applied as a discount on your first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's up to 10 free meals at just HelloFresh.com/stayhot10FM. You'll love it. It's HelloFresh, America's and Stay Hot's #1 meal kit.
We want to get into some questions?
Yeah,
Let's get into
it.
some of them. I'd like to start with kind of something in the same vein that we're already discussing. This question comes from Kirk, just Kirk, so shout out. Asks, who do you think will be the biggest free agency steal and someone you think gets massively overpaid? So example would be like Kirk Cousins ended up being a massive overpaid this past free agency. And I'm trying to think who would have been a massive steal, probably Darnold in the same vein. So who do we think could end up being those players this offseason? Matt, do you have anyone that comes to mind for either of them?
I'm worried that Darnold's going to be a massive overpay. Off the top of my head would be the #1 guy. I mean, I think that there's some chance that a team is just too backed into the corner, and there's maybe a coach out there who just needs a guy and says, well, if I don't find a solution now, I'm not going to find one. And if you don't like the quarterback class, which I feel like isn't looking that much better this year than it was a couple of months ago, like nobody's emerging as, oh, what about this guy outside of Jackson Dart who's getting infinite Twitter hype? Then, yeah, I think you could see Darnold get a big deal. But also the last couple of games have made me feel a little bit more confident that it's not going to be quite as bad because we sort of saw what the floor was for Darnold and that it's still there.
Yeah, he definitely could get overpaid. I still like the last few games were bad, but when you sort, by statistics, by efficiency this year, like Darnold's name is still going to be near the top of every list. And then you can make the argument like he was a top 10 quarterback in the league this year and goes for, the appropriate amount based on that instead of just the playoff game. So if he goes to a team that doesn't have Justin Jefferson and Brian Flores and Jordan Addison and all these guys, the quarterback position inherently just feels like it could get overpaid. We saw what happened in the playoffs. Like a lot of quarterbacks felt overpaid after these playoffs, right? Like, oh man, you're paying Jordan Love this for what? You're paying Justin Herbert this for what? You're paying, the list goes on and on this playoffs. So yeah, Darnold and a quarterback definitely feels like the guy to get overpaid. I've got another position that's kind of like that, which is edge. I could maybe see Josh Sweat maybe getting a really high-end edge contract. He's been productive for a long time, and he'll be coming off another Super Bowl appearance, perhaps a Super Bowl win. And when you're looking at all the defenders in this free agency class, I think his name is going to be, at the very top of the list in terms of desirability. Khalil Mack, it might be the best overall player, but he's a bit on the older side. There's some other guys like that. Tank Lawrence from Dallas is a free agent this year. He's on the older side as well. And who else is there? Hassan Reddick, Matt Judon. Yeah. So those are kind of your top guys, and they're all old. And then there's Sweat, who's going to be 28, not any kind of spring chicken, but, not in his 30s, certainly. I think edge rushers are good until they're probably about 32 is I would say when I start to get really worried about a fall off. So 28 isn't too bad. And Sweat's a good player, but it's just inherently an inefficient way to build a team. Free agency, like it's players that other teams didn't want to give a long-term contract to, but you're forced to win a bidding war. And with Sweat, he's always been a member of such a stacked defensive line. And he has one 15-sack season and none others over 10 in the double digits. So I just don't know if he'll, on the next team, be able to live up to the contract that he might be in line to get in free agency. He kind of stands out to me as somebody who might get overpaid.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
It's tough. I've been thinking about kind of the T. Higgins situation a lot and where that could end up. And like if he does go to free agency, if the Bengals don't retain him, it's kind of difficult to imagine how much money he could end up getting.
I agree with Higgins. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many teams, it feels like, when their fan bases are talking about what they want to do this offseason, it's get T. Higgins, because there's so many like young quarterbacks or just offenses that need some juice. And Higgins is a guy who I feel like a lot of people think can provide that. And I don't necessarily disagree, but wide receiver has been getting paid more and more and more. And I don't necessarily think Higgins is like a 1A guy or anything, but
that's the thing.
You don't necessarily have to be if you're a free agent who could go to 20 different places.
It's like Christian Kirk got an unfathomable amount of money. I mean, I think T. Higgins would get more than that. And I think T. Higgins is better than Christian Kirk, but like you said, Matt, he's not a 1A. And I'm not going to pay someone like, I don't even know what kind of contract he could get to be like, I'm not going to pay him more than Justin Jefferson. I'm not going to pay him more than Jamar Chase. But if the Bengals can retain him, that would be great. But man, if he goes a free agent.
Well, I guess the thing is that I kind of feel like they won't. A lot of these guys, it's like, well, will their team resign him? I mean, I don't know. We'll see with Cincinnati.
The Bengals not re-signing T. Higgins. And I think that's probably what makes T. Higgins like the most attractive free agent. Is that it actually feels like he'll be a free agent? Yeah, it's not just like a guy that like the Bengals didn't want. It's just like literally their owner.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because it's like so many times it's like, well, the question is, how did this guy get to free agency? Yeah. How was this guy the last dude that they wanted to sign? With the Bengals, it's like, well, they're scrapping and clawing to keep like two players. Somehow they can't sign any of their guys. I know they've signed Burrow, but it's like they're struggling with everyone. So, yeah, I totally agree.
So, there's that. Trying to think about who could be a steal, though. That's the hard one, is trying to project a potential steal in free agency.
I've got one. I got a couple.
Go for it. I mean, my first thought is it would probably be someone like older. So I'm curious to see where you go.
I like Kaiser White.
Okay.
He's who I want the Packers to sign. I just think that as a linebacker, he's been a part of. He was on the Super Bowl team for the Eagles last time. Mm-hmm. You can have a winning defense with him as a starter. I think he was very important to what the Cardinals were doing this year. Jonathan Gannon, he went from kind of a vanilla defensive coordinator to maybe the most wacky out there when it comes to his coverage assignments and disguising things and blitzing from strange places. And I think Kaiser White was kind of a valuable part of that. His ability to drop into coverage and cover a lot of ground. I think he's a really, really good coverage linebacker, reading the quarterback's eyes, reacting quickly to play fakes in the backfield, playing at the proper depth. Like, I really think he can cover a lot of ground over in the middle of the field. And with the play action game being the offensive meta these days, and with Brian Flores's defense being so successful, maybe there's some copycats of that coming on, or maybe he gets. I guess he can't get a head coaching job. They're all filled, but you want sim pressures, you want disguises, you want the defense to be hard to read, and I think Kaiser White really helps you accomplish that. Not the strongest run defender in the world, but man, I really like his ability in coverage. I'd be interested in a guy like that this offseason.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of teams that can benefit from adding really strong linebacker play. We saw the Dolphins do it this past offseason with Jordan Brooks. Kaiser White, yeah, good player. Levante David's another guy who's an unrestricted free agent, who could probably still play at a high level. I mean, he's 35, but he's still cooking like he's 25, it feels like.
Yeah.
I think about who else fits in that mold. I think Judon would I don't know if I would pay Judon.
No, I wouldn't pay Judon. Judon's had a bad year. The Falcons traded it for him and they regret it. So I don't know if I would be looking to give Judon a big contract. There are some guards that I like in this class. I like Bredesen from Tampa Bay. Like, he was a 1-year free agent for them. And he's now hitting it again. And I think he upped his value pretty significantly, being a part of that stellar offensive line. Maybe he was the weak link of it, but I thought he was a pretty good weak link if he is one. He to me is someone who's pretty valuable. Will Hernandez is someone who could be a bit of a steal. He is kind of coming from a similar scheme, a very varied running scheme, that runs gap and zone in Arizona. He'll be 30 and he's coming off an injury, so he'll definitely be a discount. But I feel like he's kind of been getting better and better over his time in Arizona. It's been a really good guard for them. So I think those two could be like good starters for you. And I just don't know how, I don't think they'll be very expensive.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I want to take a quick break to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out with drinks. It's called Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol, and it's an absolute lifesaver when I want to enjoy a few drinks, but I still want to have a productive day the next day. So, that feeling when you wake up after a night out and you just don't bounce back like you used to. You feel a little sluggish, like you have to choose between having a great night or a great next day. That's exactly the problem pre-alcohol was designed to solve. Here's how it works. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists specifically to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's responsible for how you feel the next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that helps break this byproduct down. The key? Just make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best in the morning. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical at first, but I gave it a try while hanging out with some friends at a game night, and the next morning, I felt completely on top of my game. No sluggishness, no struggle to get moving. I just felt normal, ready to take on the day. So whether it's an early workout, weekend plans, or, just trying to stay on track with my routine, pre-alcohol helps me show up at my best. With pre-alcohol, I can stay on track, even through big celebrations like Valentine's Day and the Super Bowl. If you want to keep your plans tomorrow while still enjoying your night, this truly is the best way to do it. So head on over to zbiotics.com/stayhot to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use the code STAYHOT at checkout. And the best part, Z-Biotics is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Again, remember, that is zbiotics.com/stayhot and use the code STAYHOT at checkout for 15% off your first order. Cheers to feeling great tomorrow. All right, next question then. This one is from, his name is just a period, I guess, but his handle is JTalksBall. And he asked, if you could fix the NFL Pro Bowl, how would you? What events would you add? Theo, you sent this question in the chat. I really like it. I think it's an interesting discussion, not just for the sake of the NFL, but I feel like the NBA also kind of has an issue with, players not taking their all-star game seriously, and it makes just the product less entertaining. So I'm curious as to where you guys stand on this one.
I was wondering if maybe you could make it look more like the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, where there's like kind of these publicized one-on-ones. Like, could you kind of do a bracket situation? Like, everybody loves the Senior Bowl and break it down all the reps and who won and who lost.
Yeah.
And it's a big talking point right now. If you could get that done with NFL players, that'd be cool. Like, in the days leading up to it, you could do the one-on-ones leading into like a game between the two teams. I think, I don't know, you'd need big pay incentives to participate because that's going hard. Like, there's a risk of injury there. But I there's no other way to do it than to pay these guys big money for winning and incentivize them to really try.
Yeah, you need to have some sort of player incentive, and other than paying, it's hard to find a reason or for them to find another reason to participate in it. I do wonder if the timing of the Pro Bowl also makes it tough, because like the NBA at least gets an all-star break. Like the NFL's Pro Bowl break is like right after the playoffs and right before the Super Bowl, which if you're looking at like most of the players who would be in the Pro Bowl, it's like all of those guys. It's like they just played 20 weeks of football and now you want them to go and play in like an all-star sequence
in Orlando. That's another thing they could change. Like, make it back in Hawaii or something. Like, I feel like Orlando could be a better. There could be a better destination, maybe.
Yeah, I think ultimately the problem is that, like, who cares about the Pro Bowl? You're never going to be able to get the players to go hard without the serious incentive to, because there's injury risk, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to deal with that no matter what. I think it's the reason why the All-Star game just isn't going to work. I think it's the reason why the Pro Bowl doesn't work no matter how much you tweak it. I would be interested to see if you could get some buy-in for the one-on-ones, but I feel like even any buy-in is probably going to end up being pretty limited long-term, because eventually players are going to be like, this just isn't quite worth it for me to play in.
Yeah, I also think another issue is just kind of the criteria for like picking Pro Bowl players. Like, everyone at this point understands that like it's super unserious as to who makes it and who doesn't at this point. I mean, Drake May is at the Pro Bowl this year, so like love Drake May.
What's the issue?
Love Drake May, man. Is he like, we can?
Did he have a Pro Bowl caliber season? It is questionable.
It is very questionable, right? So I do think there needs to be a little bit of stricter selection process, along with some incentive for the players to participate. And that combination of things, I think, would help fix it. But again, if you have this strict criterion, it's like, well, it's only like the people that make the All-Pro team. Well, then like the guys that are in the Super Bowl, like they're not playing unless it's like, you know, you have like a Pro Bowl break or something, like week 11 but like, I don't know if that's something that the NFL can actually implement.
They should combine all the all-star games. We're talking about how the NBA has an all-star problem, the NFL, like no one can get buy-in. What if we combined every sports all-star game, and then all the Pro Bowlers from all the different sports competed in, like, we got football players playing baseball with NBA players and NHL, and then it's just like, it's like the Olympics or something. Or how about this? I think we need to get rid of the Pro Bowl, let it chill, like there's nothing happening for a few years. And then we start putting up propaganda in each locker room that's like nostalgia, like we must return to glory, like stuff. And then get the Pro Bowl, you know, branded as something, you know, unique and special and something that people miss and are nostalgic for after it's been gone for years. And then try to, you know, tug on the heartstrings a little bit and see if that replenishes guys.
Yeah, and then you post that Sean Taylor clip where he lights up a punter for no reason a whole bunch in the next few years. Yeah, I could totally see that working. People love that clip. I've always thought it was funny.
Yeah, they need to get rid of the Pro Bowl, like no dodgeball, no nothing for a few years, and then start bringing that clip back and like just make the Pro Bowl seem like it was something that it's not, and like.
And let
like,
it work
back
for
in
like
the
3
day.
years.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh shit, that's right. Wait a minute, we don't like the Pro Bowl. And then you take it away and then you bring it back after another decade of it being gone.
And then like you could tell like the Gen Alpha athletes like, this is the way to be an alpha. Like
this is what they took from you.
This is what they took from you. Like you'll never be an alpha if you never competed in a Pro Bowl. And they'll be like, wait, I need to be alpha.
No, I am. No, I am an alpha. No, that's not right.
Yeah. And like, yeah. So I think that's what we got to do. I think there needs to be no Pro Bowl for at least a decade. And then you bring it back after hyping it up as like some awesome event that everybody really tried hard for and cared about, and no one will even know the difference. Like that's not how it was.
So true. That's so true. They have really, it's become such a gimmick. Like,
you
didn't tune into the dodgeball game?
I don't blame them. There's nothing that can be done. Every like suggestion is always like, dude, you just got to pay them a little bit more. Like you're never going to be able to pay these guys so much money that they play in a game. It just isn't logical. And you're never going to be able to like
mandated from the president, dude. It needs to be like true authoritarian order. Like you have to do this as like, we got to lean into we got to play the cards we're dealt. Like President Trump needs to say like, this is a show of America's strength on the national scale. The Pro Bowl happens on the moon or something, and all the athletes have to go. And it's like the space race to show like our athletes are better than China or something. Like that's how you gotta.
Oh my God.
Truly, it needs to be
space race.
Yeah, it needs to be something ridiculous that is mandated or something.
Okay. So I'm looking at like past payouts for the Pro Bowl games, and in previous, so like in 2025, the winner payout was $92,000, right? And for an NFL athlete, like the types of guys who are going to the Pro Bowl, that's not significant. That's how much they're getting fined on a weekly basis.
True.
But like
they'll get fined at the Pro Bowl. Yeah,
I mean, in the last 20 years, the payout has basically doubled.
You're not going to be able to outpay. You just can't pay these guys enough to make it work, though. It's not
like
possible.
$40,000 in 2005 would have been like kind of significant. Like it wouldn't have been like they're still making pretty great money, but I mean the cap has skyrocketed since then, and the Pro Bowl just can't keep up. I don't know. Owners got to like pull together or something to make it work. But you're right, Matt. They probably just can't. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Theo, I want to bring up a question that you asked in the group chat, which is, we're going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl Media Week. We were in Vegas for Super Bowl Media last year. Theo, you were in Arizona the year before for Super Bowl Media. Was it? It was in Arizona. Yeah, it was in Arizona. I thought I was tripping. But you asked the question, what would be the worst Super Bowl city? Now, I assume that we're taking into account, like, this city has an NFL stadium.
Probably somewhere in rural China. I'm not going to lie.
That's what
I was thinking International Falls. It doesn't have to have an NFL stadium.
It's got to be. We're going to go to. Fort Wayne.
No, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to have an NFL. It can be anywhere in the world.
Oh, well then, dude, it's just like.
Probably somewhere in rural China then. Tough to get to, no stadium, no fans.
I like that.
Maybe somewhere in North Korea.
Ooh, that's good because a lot of fans couldn't even get there.
Yeah. But they have that big stadium in North Korea. So they say. They do. Supposedly the world's largest stadium.
Maybe it would just be like in the middle of the ocean. That might be the worst.
Yeah, I guess water because all the players would drown pretty quick. Yeah, that would be bad.
I think
assuming that there is an NFL stadium, I think it would be Cleveland.
That'd be the worst place.
And like, if we're talking only NFL cities, probably would be Green Bay.
Sadly, it might be.
It's like not even really a city.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, what city has
really
the
far
worst
north.
infrastructure?
Okay, probably Green Bay.
You think Green Bay has worse infrastructure?
It's just not that big for the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's just not that big.
Cleveland.
I think Cincinnati would be a funny choice.
Gahanna, Ohio probably has a big.
Just built.
It probably has a bigger downtown than Green Bay. Like, there's probably more to do in Gahanna.
Gahanna just built a new high school football stadium too. So
it's probably nicer than that'd probably be the second nicest building in Green Bay. Like fucking Lambeau.
Yeah, they just spent $10 million redoing the entire high school.
Yeah, yeah. Green Bay could not spend that kind of money. Definitely. I think the worst city to do it in would be how do I pronounce this? South Tangerang. Where is this?
South Tangerang listeners furious right now, by the way.
South Tangerang listeners can't be that mad because their air quality in February is like at dangerous levels. So I think all the players would get like exhausted. Like, it says PM 2.5 concentration is currently 12.7 times the World Health Organization annual PM 2.5 guideline value. I don't know what that means, but the health recommendations are avoid outdoor exercise, close your windows to avoid dirty outdoor air, wear a mask whenever you're outdoors. Where is this place? Okay, so is that Bangladesh? Yeah, it would not be good there. I think anywhere it's gotta be like a remote Asia.
Island.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's kind of what we need. Like something, it's like you have to show up by like a single use plane. Like a single person plane just takes each player in one at a time.
What's that island where they kill anybody who comes? Probably the worst.
Because they kill you.
Probably the worst place
be
for a
killed.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's probably a bad spot to have the ball.
That's bad. That would not be good.
Yeah, it's just like I'm looking at top 5 hardest to reach places in the world. Tristan da Cunha, that's number 1. So, yeah, I think you can only get there by cruise ship.
I like these answers: North Sentinel Island, Cleveland, and South Tangerang, and rural China.
We need to make a graph version the next Super Bowl.
Graph of the worst cities in the world to have the Super Bowl. Yo, what if we just had? What if we had the Super Bowl?
It's
what
true.
if we had the Super Bowl on a cruise ship?
Honestly, they used to do. They did that for.
They did that for college basketball. Yeah, on an aircraft carrier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ground's all metal and hard, like the USS Roosevelt or something. That would not be a good place for the Super Bowl either.
Mm-mm.
No, they'll put turf down. They've got that. They can roll out turf onto the aircraft carrier and then just play some good old fashioned ground and pound football.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep it a bone with you. My phone's at 5%. Do we have one more question?
Theo posted one more in here. If one controversial call could have gone the other way, which one would you have changed? We'll just do one each.
Like in the history of the NFL?
Or maybe sports.
Or all of sports?
Yeah.
Oh, I would change Clemson, Ohio State 2019. That was a fumble. That's the one I would change.
Okay.
I might pick Jericho Cotchery caught it because I wonder if the Panthers can win that game and win the Super Bowl if that call goes their way. But I feel more strongly that was a fumble in the Ohio State Clemson game, so I'll go that.
Theo?
There's the Fail Mary, which wasn't like a big game at all, but that is the call that has pissed me off the most in my time watching sports. So I think I'd reverse that one. I know that like there's probably been some bad calls for the Packers in playoff games that are maybe slipping my mind, but the one that just stands out to me is altering my brain chemistry forever and just hurting the most in the moment was losing on that Hail Mary that MD Jennings definitely caught. Like, I don't want to hear, I know 50-50 goes to the offense, and that rule can be fine. Like, I agree, like, someone's got to get it if it's a 50-50. This was not a 50-50. Like, MD Jennings fully had it in his hands. Like, it was maybe like 90-10 possession. And then, like, once they landed, like, Golden Tate wrestled for the ball, and, like, after they landed, it looked more like a 50-50, but that's just not the way it was. So
Yeah.
the Packers lost on that call. Obviously, it was replacement refs, and they ended up getting, like, the refs were striking that year for some of our younger listeners. This happened kind of a long time ago. The refs were striking, so we had replacement refs that were out there. And this call was bad enough on a Monday Night Football primetime game that the next week the strike ended and the refs came back. But that one sucked. That was not fun.
So are the rules that I can only reverse like a call, or can I just like change the outcome of a play?
One call.
Okay. Then it's the Rashard Higgins diving at the goal line, targeting, not getting called there, and it being a fumble out of the end zone. I would have had targeting called there. And
what were the implications here? Like, what week was
it? It was the AFC divisional round playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. When Matt Moore came in, right? Or whoever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember
that. And the Browns had like a 12-point swing because they were going to score a touchdown, and then
instead they grumbled.
Instead they grumbled. Touchback, and
they wumbled it up.
Yep.
So I would have had that. I would have had that play have been called targeting. And
does targeting, is that a call that exists in the NFL?
Yes. Is it? I'm now questioning, but I think it does.
Helmet to helmet definitely exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's helmet to helmet, but I mean, it was helmet to helmet. Like, I'll pull up a picture right now of that play.
It was. I do remember that. It was. There was a little bit of spearing involved there.
Yeah, it was not great.
I remember the Browns getting gotten really badly one time on a fumble against the Raiders, I think, where it's like they clearly came up with it and they still gave it to the Raiders. That was against the Washington Commanders. I think they might have still. I don't know if they had changed their name yet, but it definitely was not the Commanders at that point because this was a while ago.
It was Duke Johnson had someone had fumbled. Duke Johnson came up with the football in his hand, and the ref is pointing in the other direction. That is one of the worst calls ever also, but like clear helmet to helmet here. It doesn't get any more blatant.
It was helmet. It was a bad call.
It was helmet to helmet.
But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let us know in the comments what you would have changed or any of your answers to any of these questions. We're going to get out of here so Matt can go charge his phone.
Sorry, fellas.
We're going to get ready to travel to New Orleans. So it should be a fun time.
Yeah, see y'all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a good time.
It will be a good time. Let's go. If you see us in New Orleans, come say hi. We'll be around.
But let me know in the comments what question I should ask the Eagles or Chiefs.
Yeah, we'll be asking questions.
If I might not ask it if you just are fucking around, but if there's a good one that's funny, I may.
Can we?
We'll be around, so maybe I'll pull the trigger.
Thursday? Can we say what we're doing Thursday?
Playing cornhole with L'Jarius Sneed? No, we can't say that. That's top secret.
I didn't know. We didn't play an NBA.
So we're gonna get like, you blew it. It's not happening.
So if you want to ask L'Jarius Sneed anything while we're playing cornhole, let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, when we're recording in New Orleans, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.